The antiseptic smell of the hospital was giving me a headache. 3 years. The nurse told me I'd been in a coma for 3 whole years. Mr. Hayes, your family will be here any minute. I nodded, trying to claw back the last memory I had before the crash. I was driving to the airport that day, on my way to meet a major investor. And then, nothing. The door creaked open, and I looked up. Olivia walked in, dressed in a sharp black business suit, with 2 little figures trailing behind her. Daddy! The twins, Leo and Sophie, rushed toward me. My heart swelled, instantly full. 3 years. The kids had shot up. Leo was 6 now, and so was Sophie, the perfect, adorable age. Did you miss me? I reached out to ruffle their hair. Strangely, both of them took an instinctive step back. Olivia, it must have been so hard for you these past 3 years, I said, turning to my wife. Her expression was strained. She forced a smile. It's nothing. I'm just glad you're awake, she explained. I tried to take her hand, but I noticed her fingers were bare. The wedding ring was gone. Your ring. Oh, I took it off to do some chores a while back and forgot to put it on, she explained. I didn't press it. I had just woken up, and there was a lot to get used to. A doctor came in and ran a full checkup. All my vitals were normal. You can start preparing for discharge. While handling the paperwork, I asked the nurse for a phone to call my office. Mr. Hayes, your phone number has been disconnected for 3 years. Then I'll use Olivia's. Olivia hesitated for a moment before handing me her phone. I dialed my company's main line. Vance Capital, how can I help you? Vance Capital. Wasn't our company called Hayes Ventures? Is Carter Vance available? Mr. Vance is in a meeting. May I ask who's calling? Mr. Vance. I hung up and looked at Olivia. The company changed its name? Ethan, you just woke up. A lot has happened. It's hard to explain all at once. Let's just go home first. She was dodging, refusing to give me a straight answer. In the car, I stared out the window at the familiar yet strange city streets. A city can change a lot in 3 years. Our suburban neighborhood, however, looked the same. The car pulled into her driveway, and I got out, stretching my legs. It was good to be home. But the moment I pushed the door open, I froze. There was a man sitting in the living room, playing a video game with my kids. Carter Vance, my college roommate and my business partner. Ethan, you're awake, he said, standing up with a warm, enthusiastic smile plastered on his face. But the smile felt hollow, fake. Carter, what are you doing here? It hasn't been easy for Olivia, raising 2 kids on her own these 3 years. I come by often to help out, he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I nodded. Thanks for that. Uncle Carter, let's keep playing, Sophie said, tugging on his hand. Uncle. I frowned. Sophie, don't call him that. This is Daddy's friend. Sophie glanced at me, then back at Carter, and said in a small voice, but Uncle Carter said he's my godfather. Godfather? My eyes shot to Carter. He gave an awkward laugh. It's just what the kids are used to. Don't worry about it. Olivia quickly intervened. Leo, Sophie, go upstairs and do your homework. The kids obediently went upstairs, and the living room fell silent. Ethan, there are a few business matters I need to discuss with you, Carter began. Good. I was just about to ask about the company. He glanced at Olivia, as if seeking her approval. That look made my stomach turn. Why was he looking to my wife for permission? Here's the thing. While you were in a coma, the company ran into a lot of trouble. What kind of trouble? The capital chain broke, several major projects failed. We almost went bankrupt. My chest tightened. And now, I managed to save it, but he paused. I'm the legal representative of the company now. What do you mean? It was an emergency. Olivia signed an equity transfer agreement. She transferred your shares to me. I shot to my feet. You did what? Olivia rushed to explain. Ethan, there was no other way. If the company went under, our whole family would have been ruined. So you just gave him my shares? It was temporary. We were going to discuss it when you woke up. I took a deep breath, tried to control my anger. It was to save the company, after all. I could understand. Fine. Let's discuss it now. I want my shares back. Carter looked troubled. That might be a bit complicated. How is it complicated? The company is doing very well now. A sudden change in the ownership structure could affect stability. I let out a cold laugh. Carter Vance? Are you kidding me? Ethan, don't get agitated, Olivia said, grabbing my arm. Carter worked so hard these 3 years. It wasn't easy getting the company to where it is today. She was defending him. I looked at my wife's face and suddenly felt like I was staring at a stranger. So what you're saying is I, the founder, have been kicked out? Not kicked out. Call a partnership, Carter said. You can buy back in, but no more than 30%. I almost laughed out loud. The company I built from scratch, and he was offering me a 30% stake, calling a partnership. Carter, have you no shame? Ethan, Olivia snapped. Carter did this for us. How can you talk to him like that? I was stunned. My own wife was scolding me. I stared at Olivia as if seeing her for the first time. You're taking his side? I'm not taking anyone's side. I'm just stating the facts, she said, her tone icy. The facts? The fact is you two conspired to steal my company. Ethan, that's an ugly word, Carter said with a frown. What do you mean, steal? We saved the company. Saved it? Now that it's saved, why don't you give it back? Give it back. Carter scoffed. I'm the reason this company is where it is today. Why should I give it back to you? His words finally tore away the mask. I saw him for who he truly was. Carter, have you forgotten who loaned you money for college? Who brought you into the investment world in the first place? That's all in the past, he said dismissively. Business is war. It's about power, not sentiment. I was trembling with rage. This was the friend I trusted most. Olivia, say something. I looked at my wife, a final shred of hope in my eyes. Olivia was silent for a long moment before finally speaking. Ethan, Carter's right. You weren't here for 3 years. He was the one who held this family together. My heart turned to ash. Even my wife was on his side. So if you're telling me I wake up from a 3-year coma to find I have nothing? Not nothing, Carter said, pulling a document from his briefcase. This is a consultant contract. $50,000 a month. You might want to consider it. $50,000 a month. Making me, the former CEO, an employee under him. It was a calculated humiliation. You think I'd sign that? It's fine if you don't, he shrugged. The company runs perfectly well without you. I turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Olivia asked. Back to the office. Ethan, you're not part of the company anymore. You have no right to enter. Carter's voice called from behind me. I stopped. What do you mean? The security system has been upgraded. You can't get in without an authorized key card. I took a deep breath and turned to face them. Carter Vance, Olivia Hayes. You two are really something else. I drove to the office building, staring up at the 32-story tower. The commercial empire I had built with my own hands. When I entered the lobby, a security guard stopped me. Sir, your ID badge, please. I'm Ethan Hayes. The guard paused for a second, then said, Sorry, sir, you're not on the access list. Not on the access list. The founder of the company denied entry to his own building. I need to see Carter Vance. Mr. Vance is in a meeting. You can't go up without an appointment. An appointment. I need an appointment to see my own partner. I pulled out my phone and dialed Carter's number. Ethan, you're downstairs? Yes. Let me up. Sorry. I'm in a really important meeting. How about you come back tomorrow? Carter. He had already hung up. I stood in the lobby, watching the employees come and go. Many of them knew me, but now they looked at me with strange expressions. Some with pity, some with contempt, and some with a cruel satisfaction. A single phrase came to mind. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Leaving the company, I drove aimlessly through the streets. Without realizing it, I had arrived at my grandfather's cemetery. He had passed away 3 years ago while I was in a coma. I hadn't been able to say goodbye, a pain that would stay with me forever. Grandpa, I'm back, I said, kneeling before his headstone. I'm sorry. I was a terrible grandson. I wasn't there for you when you left. After cleaning the dust from the gravestone, I sat on the stone steps beside it. Grandpa, I don't know what to do. My company is gone. My wife has changed. Even my kids feel like strangers. What did I miss in these 3 years? I returned home at dusk. The house was quiet when I walked in. Olivia was in the kitchen making dinner, and the kids were in the living room watching cartoons. Everything seemed normal, but I felt a deep sense of wrongness. Daddy's home, I said, greeting the children. Leo and Sophie glanced at me, but didn't run over like they used to. They just gave me a polite nod. Their distance was a knife in my gut. Leo, come here. Dad will read you a story. No, thanks. Uncle Carter already read to us, Leo said. Uncle Carter again. When did he read to you? Yesterday. Uncle Carter reads us a story every day, Sophie said innocently. Every day. I looked toward Olivia in the kitchen. She seemed to feel my gaze and turned her head. Ethan, come help me with the soup. I walked into the kitchen and asked in a low voice. Carter comes here every day? Not every day, but often. How often is often? Why are you asking me like this? She said, her voice tinged with annoyance. He helped us so much. The least you could do is be grateful, not suspicious. Grateful? I should be grateful to the man who stole my company and my family. Olivia, I want to know what really happened these past 3 years. She stopped what she was doing and looked at me. A lot of things you can't even imagine. Like what? Like how I cried myself to sleep every night when the company was about to go bankrupt. Like how I had no idea how to answer the kids when they asked when Daddy was coming home. Like how I had to face every challenge alone, with no one to lean on. Her eyes filled with tears, her voice choked with emotion. Do you have any idea how desperate I was? Do you know how much I need a shoulder to cry on? And Carter, he gave me that. I understood. In the 3 years I was gone, Carter hadn't just taken my company. He had taken my wife's heart. So you fell in love with him? Olivia froze, then shook her head. No, I'm just grateful. Grateful enough to what? Grateful enough to give him your husband's company? Grateful enough to let him replace me in my own home? Ethan Hayes, don't you dare go too far, she snapped. Everything I did was for this family. For this family? I sneered. Or for yourself? Dinner was an awkward, silent affair. The kids kept their heads down, too scared to speak. I tried to make conversation, but their answers were short and non-committal, as if I were a stranger. Leo, what grade are you in now? First grade. What's your favorite subject? Art. Why do you like art? Because Uncle Carter says I'm a good painter. Uncle Carter again. What about me? What did I teach you before I was gone? The two kids looked at each other, then shook their heads. We don't remember. They didn't remember. They had forgotten me. That was the price of 3 years. After dinner, I went to the study to handle some personal matters. I opened my laptop and found the password had been changed. Olivia, the password on the computer was changed. She answered from the living room. Oh, it got a virus. I changed it when I had the system reinstalled. What did you change it to? Carter's birthday. She said it so casually, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Using another man's birthday as a password. That was the choice my wife had made. I didn't ask anything else. I took out my phone and started checking my bank accounts, only to discover a more shocking truth. All of my bank cards were frozen. Both my corporate and personal accounts. Olivia, come in here for a second. She walked into the study. What is it? Why are my bank accounts frozen? It's because of the company's debts. The court froze all related accounts. Will they be unfrozen? We have to wait for the court's ruling. When will that be? I don't know. It could be a while. I looked at her calm expression, and a chill crept deeper into my heart. So you're saying I don't have a single penny to my name? Not exactly, she said, pulling a card from her purse. There's $10,000 on this. You can use it for now. $10,000. I, a former CEO, was now living on handouts for my wife. Where did this money come from? I earned it from some art exhibitions I curated over the past few years. She was the director of an art gallery and sometimes curated shows, but I remembered her salary wasn't that high. A gallery director can make this much? And sponsorships from Carter, she added matter-of-factly. He invested in a few of my exhibition projects. And there he was again. Carter Vance. He hadn't just stolen my company. He was financially controlling my wife. Olivia, do you think this is normal? What's normal? Having an outsider control our family's finances. He's not an outsider. He's our friend. A friend. I laughed coldly. Would a friend steal his friend's company? He didn't steal it. He was helping us. We were speaking different languages. In her eyes, Carter was a savior, and I was an ungrateful bastard. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. Olivia was already asleep, but her back was turned to me, a deliberate, calculated distance between us. We were separated by more than just a pillow. We were separated by 3 years of time. At 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went to get a glass of water. As I passed the kids' room, I heard someone talking. I gently pushed the door open and saw Leo crying. Leo, what's wrong? He cried even harder when he saw me. I had a nightmare. What was it about? I dreamed that a bad man was trying to drive Uncle Carter away. A bad man. I realized that in my son's subconscious, I had already been cast as the villain. Leo, Uncle Carter isn't your daddy. I am. But Uncle Carter is better than you, Leo sobbed. He plays with us, he buys us presents, and he protects Mommy. And what did I do? You didn't do anything. You were just sleeping. In my children's eyes, I was a lazy father who had been absent for 3 years, while Carter was the true protector. The inversion of reality was crushing. The next morning, I was woken by a commotion. I went downstairs to find a group of strangers in the living room. They were dressed in suits, holding documents. You must be Mr. Ethan Hayes, the middle-aged man in the lead said, standing up. I'm Mr. Carter Vance's attorney. Carter's attorney. What were they doing in my house? This is a civil complaint. Please have a look. I took the document and scanned it quickly. Carter Vance was suing me for defamation and malicious accusation. The reason? My claim yesterday that he had embezzled company assets. What is this? It's simple. Mr. Vance demands a public apology and $1 million in compensation for emotional distress. $1 million? I was penniless. Where would I get $1 million? And if I refuse to apologize or pay? Then we'll see you in court, the lawyer said. packing up his files. By the way, I should inform you that Mr. Vance has more than enough evidence to prove your accusations were made with malicious intent. After they left, I looked at Olivia. This is your friend? Ethan, you really went too far yesterday. Too far? What did I say? I just asked for my own company back. But your methods were wrong. So what would have been the right way? Should I have gotten on my knees and begged him? You could have tried to negotiate. Negotiate? With a man who had stolen everything from me. I felt like a clown. That morning, I visited a few old friends, wanted to find out what had really happened over the past 3 years. The first person I met was my college classmate, Mark Peterson. He was now a manager at a securities firm. Ethan, you're awake? That's fantastic, he said, genuinely excited. We all thought you were. You thought what? That you weren't going to wake up. We sat down at a coffee shop, and I got straight to the point. Mark, what the hell happened to the company these last 3 years? Mark's expression turned grim. You really don't remember anything? I remember the company was doing great. We had tens of millions in cash reserves. That's true. Before your accident, the company was in good shape. Then why did the capital chain break? Mark was silent for a moment. Ethan, there are some things. I don't know if I should say. Say it. After Carter took over, he made a lot of aggressive investments. What kind of investments? Real estate, mining, and some other high-risk financial products. And the result? He made a lot of money in the first 2 years, but last year. What happened last year? The real estate market crashed, and the mining venture went bust. The company lost hundreds of millions in an instant. Hundreds of millions. I sucked in a sharp breath. So how is the company now? Now, Mark gave a bitter smile. On the surface, it looks fine, but in reality, it's drowning in debt. What do you mean? To keep the company afloat, Carter took out a lot of predatory loans. Predatory loans? He had dragged my company into a swamp. Does Olivia know about this? I don't think she knows the specifics. Carter has always presented himself as a great success in front of her, Mark said. So that was it. Carter was squandering my company's assets while playing the role of a successful tycoon for my wife. And she, completely in the dark, was grateful for his help. Mark, do you have any proof? Proof? Mark shook his head. This is just what I've heard. I don't have anything concrete. Is there any way to find out the truth? You'd have to get access to someone inside the company, but now I can't even get through the front door. I was completely shut out. After leaving the coffee shop, I met with a few other friends. The story was the same. Carter had made disastrous investments, but had covered his tracks brilliantly. To the outside world, he was a business prodigy. Only a few insiders knew the truth, and I was no longer one of them. That afternoon, I received a phone call. Mr. Hey, this is Mr. Wallace. I'm an attorney. I have a client who would like to meet with you. What client? It's not something I can discuss over the phone. Could you come to my office? I went to the address, a law firm in a downtown high-rise. Mr. Wallace was a man in his 50s, with a professional and serious demeanor. Mr. Hayes, my client would like to speak with you about Carter Vance. Who is your client? A creditor. A creditor? Carter owes him money? It's more complicated than just that. Mr. Wallace said, handing me a file. Please take a look at this. The documents showed that Carter, using the company's name, had borrowed huge sums of money from multiple financial institutions. The total was over $100 million. And the guarantor for all these debts was me. That's impossible. I shot up from my chair. I was in a coma for 3 years. How could I have signed any guarantee agreements? The signature is indeed yours, Mr. Wallace stated, but the documents were all signed during the period you were in the coma. I understood. Carter had forged my signature. He hadn't just stolen my company. He had saddled me with a mountain of debt. What do we do now? The creditors are demanding repayment. If the company defaults, you will be held jointly liable. What does that include? Your personal assets, your house, your cars. You could even be barred from leaving the country. My world completely fell apart. Carter wasn't just trying to destroy my company. He was trying to ruin my life. I went home and told Olivia what I had discovered. After listening, her face went pale. That's impossible. Carter isn't that kind of person. The proof is right here. I put the documents on the table in front of her. See for yourself. She read through them carefully, then shook her head. There has to be a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Maybe someone is trying to frame him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Even at this stage, she was still making excuses for him. Olivia, whose wife are you? Mine or his? Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. I'm just trying to analyze the situation. Analyze? I sneered. You've been on his side from the very beginning. What is there to analyze? I'm not on anyone's side. No. Then why do you believe every word he says and doubt everything I say? Because... She hesitated. Because what? Because he was the one who was with us for the past 3 years, she finally exploded. When you were in a coma, he was the one taking care of this family. He was the one comforting me, the one playing with the kids. And you did nothing. Her words hit me like a physical blow. It was true. I had done nothing. I was in a coma for 3 years, missed my children's formative years, and was absent when my wife needed me most. But it wasn't my fault. I didn't choose to have that accident. Olivia, is that fair? Fair. Her eyes were filled with tears. What do you know about fair? Do you know how hard it was for me to raise 2 kids by myself? Do you know how hopeless I felt when the company was in trouble? Do you know what I was supposed to tell the kids when they asked when Daddy was coming home? Every word was a dagger twisting in my heart. And Carter, he gave me support. He gave me hope. What do you want from me? To be ungrateful? I was speechless. From her perspective, Carter really was her savior. But from mine, he was the villain who had stolen everything from me. We were on completely opposite sides. That evening, Carter came over again, this time with gifts for the children. 2 brand new gaming consoles. Uncle Carter, thank you. The kids squealed, tearing open the boxes. I watched from the sidelines, my heart aching. He was buying my children's affection with money, while I couldn't even afford a decent present. Ethan, I heard you met with Mr. Wallace today, Carter said, sinking into the sofa and crossing his legs. I did. Then you should be aware of the company's current debt situation. I know you forged my signature. Forged? He laughed. Do you have proof? A handwriting analysis will prove it. Will it? He pulled out his phone and played a video. Then explained this. The video showed me signing a document. The image was a little blurry, but it was unmistakably me. When was this taken? The last day before your coma, he said smugly. You verbally agreed to act as the company's guarantor. Impossible. I would never have signed such an agreement. But the video looked real. It's a deep fake. A deep fake. He shook his head. Technology is amazing these days, but this video is genuine. You're welcome to have it authenticated, but that's not cheap, you know. Money. The one thing I didn't have. Carter, why are you doing this to me? To you. He stood up and walked over to me. Ethan, you've got it all wrong. What? This isn't about what I'm doing to you. It's about what fate did to you. You were in a coma for 3 years. The company needed someone to run it, and your family needed someone to take care of them. I just followed the path that fate laid out. If you hadn't been in that coma, maybe things would be different. But now, you're just an outsider. An outsider. He was blunt. In the home that was once mine, I had become an outsider. And, Ethan, I have a secret to tell you, he said, leaning in close and lowering his voice. What secret? Olivia has already agreed to marry me. My world spun. What did you say? I proposed. She accepted. He pulled out a ring box. We're going to the courthouse tomorrow. Impossible. She's still my wife. Legally, yes. But emotionally, he shook his head. She stopped loving you a long time ago. You're lying. Am I? He called out loudly. Olivia, come here. Olivia walked out from the kitchen. Tell Ethan about us going to the courthouse tomorrow. She glanced at me, then nodded. Yes, we're filing for divorce tomorrow. I felt like I had been plunged into a frozen lake. Why? Because there's nothing left between us, she said, her voice calm. I've had 3 years to think about it. But we have children. The children will stay with me. And with Carter, of course. They need a real father. A real father? So me, their biological father, was now the fake one. Olivia, are you sure about this? I'm sure, she said, her tone resolute. Ethan, let's just end this. It's for the best. I looked at the woman I had spent 8 years of my life with. She had once promised she would never leave me. She had once said she wanted to grow old with me. Now, all those promises were a bitter joke. Fine, I'll agree to the divorce, I said, taking a deep breath. But on one condition. What condition? I get custody of the children. Impossible, Carter immediately shot back. What kind of future can they have with you? I am their biological father. And what good is that, he scoffed. You can't even support yourself right now. Besides, the kids already see me as their dad. Yep, I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. He was right. The kids were closer to him, and in their hearts, I was just a stranger who happened to be their biological father. Ethan, the children will be better off with Carter, Olivia said. Your current situation? She didn't finish, but the meaning was clear. I was a failure, unfit to raise my own children. Then I want visitation rights. Fine. Once a month, Carter said magnanimously. But no overnights. Once a month? My own children. And I could only see them once a month? The world had gone mad. Or maybe I had. Late that night, I sat alone on the balcony. Tomorrow, I would lose everything. My wife, my children, my company, my house. I would have nothing left. And the man responsible for it all, Carter Vance, had become the winner. He had taken everything that was mine, was about to marry my wife and raise my children. Was this really fate's plan? The next morning, Olivia woke me up. Get up. We're going to the courthouse. She was already dressed, with light makeup on. She seemed to be in a good mood, as if getting a divorce was a happy occasion for her. Why the rush? Let's get it over with. I have things to do this afternoon. I got up and washed my face, looking at my own haggard reflection in the mirror. 3 days ago, I was a successful entrepreneur. In 3 days, I had become a broke, divorced man. Life can turn on a dime. When we arrived at the courthouse, Carter was already waiting at the entrance. He was wearing a designer suit and holding a bouquet of roses. Olivia, these are for you. Olivia took the flowers, a smile I hadn't seen in years gracing her face. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen her smile like that. Probably before the coma. The divorce proceedings were quick. The clerk asked if we were sure we wanted to go through with it. Without hesitation, Olivia said, yes. I was silent for a moment before finally nodding. My hand was shaking as I signed the papers. Not out of reluctance, but out of rage. Rage at my own powerlessness. Rage at the unfairness of it all. And most of all, rage at this woman's cold-hearted betrayal. The moment we received the divorce certificate, Olivia visibly relaxed. It's finally over, she muttered under her breath. Finally over? So our 8 years of marriage had been a burden to her. What about the kids? You'll move out tomorrow. The kids will continue to live in the house, Carter said. I bought the place. When did you buy it? Yesterday. Paid in full. In full? That house was worth $3 million. He just paid for it in cash. Where did you get the money? From the company's accounts, he said smugly. The company is mine now, so the money is mine too. He used my money to buy my house and then kicked me out. That was Carter Vance's style. So where am I supposed to live? That's not my problem, he said, wrapping his arm around Olivia's waist. We have to go take our wedding photos. We don't have time for you. Wedding photos? They were taking wedding photos on the same day as our divorce. Was this another way to humiliate me? Olivia, Ethan, we're done. She cut me off. Please don't use my name anymore. Don't use her name? What was I supposed to call her? Mrs. Vance? I stood at the courthouse entrance, watching them walk away, unable to move for a long time. Everything that had happened in the last 3 days felt like a bizarre nightmare. But I knew now, this wasn't a dream. This was reality. A cruel, brutal reality. When I got home, the kids were in the living room playing video games. Leo, Sophie, Daddy needs to tell you something. What is it? Leo asked without looking up from his screen. Daddy is moving out. Why? Because. I didn't know how to explain. Because Daddy is going to live somewhere else. What about us? You'll continue to live here with Mommy. With Uncle Carter too? Leo asked. Yes. Awesome, the 2 kids cheered. Uncle Carter is going to live with us. My heart shattered as I watched their excited faces. Not only were they not sad to see me go, they were happy, because they preferred Carter. Daddy, when are you leaving? Sophie asked. Tomorrow. Can you leave sooner? I want Uncle Carter to move in. I froze. My own daughter was telling me to hurry up and leave. Sophie, do you know that I'm your real father? I know, she said with childish innocence. But Uncle Carter is nicer to us. He buys us toys, plays games with us, and teaches us how to draw. You don't do anything. I didn't do anything. In my daughter's eyes, I was a useless father. That sense of failure was more painful than anything else. That night, I started to pack. There wasn't much to pack, really. Besides a few sets of clothes, I had almost nothing. My bank accounts were frozen, my company was stolen, and even my house was no longer mine. I, once a man of success, was now a homeless wanderer. After packing, I sat in my room all night, reminiscing. The memories of meeting Olivia, falling in love, getting married. The joy of our children's birth. The sense of accomplishment as the company grew. All those beautiful memories were now a source of pain, reminding me of how much I had lost. The next morning, I was ready to leave with my suitcase. The kids were at school, and Olivia was at work. Only our housekeeper, Maria, was home. Mr. Hayes, are you really leaving? She asked, her voice full of sympathy. Yes, Maria. Who will take care of you now? I gave a bitter smile. I'll take care of myself. Maria sighed. Life is so unfair. It certainly was. If it hadn't been for that car crash, none of this would have happened. I would still be running my company, spending time with my family, not left with nothing like I was now. As I stepped out the door, I took one last look back. The house that was once mine would now belong to Carter Vance. He hadn't just stolen my wife and children. He was occupying my home. And where was I supposed to go? I remember my grandfather's words. Ethan, in this life, you can lose anything, but you can never lose your dignity. He was right. I could lose my wealth, my family, but I would not lose my dignity. I would get back everything that belonged to me. Even if it took everything I had, I would make Carter Vance pay. I found a cheap motel in the city center to stay in. At $180 a day, it was a significant expense for me now. The $10,000 Olivia had given me wouldn't last long. I needed to find a way to make money, and fast. But first, I had to figure out exactly how Carter had managed all this. I took out my phone and started searching for information online, and I found some interesting things. 3 years ago, right after my coma began, Carter started appearing at various business events. He acted as my company's proxy, signing a slew of contracts, including some for high-risk investment projects. No one questioned his authority at the time. I was unconscious, and the company needed someone in charge. But looking back now, it was clear this was all part of a meticulous plan. He had used my coma as an opportunity to seize control of the company, step by step. Then, through high-risk investments, he could either make a fortune or bankrupt the company. If he won, he was a hero. If he lost, it was my company anyway, so he had nothing to lose. It was a perfect scheme, and I was the fool who got played. As I dug deeper, I found more clues. During my coma, Carter not only took over the company, but also spent a great deal of time with Olivia. There were photos online from business functions they attended together. To outsiders, they looked like a couple, and I had been completely forgotten, as if I had never existed. The more I found, the angrier I became, but I forced myself to stay calm. Anger wouldn't solve anything. What I needed was evidence, proof that Carter had broken the law. I thought of Mr. Wallace, the lawyer I had met. He had mentioned a creditor who wanted to see me. Maybe that was my breakthrough. I called Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace, that creditor you mentioned yesterday. I'd like to meet them. Of course. 3 o'clock this afternoon, same place. That afternoon, I arrived at the law firm on time. This time, I met a woman in her 40s, impeccably dressed and radiating an air of elegance. Mr. Hayes, I'm Isabel Croft, the general manager of Apex Capital. Apex Capital? I had heard of them. They specialized in high-end financial services. Ms. Croft, what can I do for you? It's about Mr. Carter Vance, she said, producing a file. This is the loan agreement he signed with us. I looked at it. The amount was $50 million. What was the purpose of a loan? To acquire a mining company. And what happened? The mining company was a shell corporation. Our money vanished. I understood. Carter had used my company as collateral to borrow money from various institutions. Then he invested in fake projects to launder the money. Ms. Croft, do you have any evidence? Of course, she said, holding up a USB drive. This contains a recording of a phone call between him and the head of that mining company. The content is very clear. They were colluding to commit fraud. I took the flash drive, my heart racing. Why are you giving this to me? Because our investigation showed that all the loans Carter took out were guaranteed in your name. Now that we can't get our money back from him, our only recourse is you. However, if we can prove Carter committed fraud, we can go to the police. Not only can we recover the funds, but you can also be released from your liability as guarantor. This was a golden opportunity, but I still had a question. Ms. Croft, why don't you just go to the police directly? Because we share some of the blame, she admitted with a wry smile. Our due diligence was lax, and there were issues with our lending procedures. If we go to the police, we'll be implicated as well. That's why we prefer to resolve this privately. So that was it. They weren't exactly saints either, just trying to cut their losses. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that they had evidence of Carter's crimes. Ms. Croft, what do you need me to do? Cooperate with us to gather more evidence proving Carter's fraudulent activities. And then we go to the police together and let him face the consequences. I thought over. It was a good plan, but I worried Carter might get desperate. If he finds out we're investigating him, won't he try to move his assets? He won't, Isabel said confidently. We've already filed for an asset freeze. His accounts are locked down, and right now, he has no idea we have this evidence. That made things easier. All right, I'll cooperate with you, but I have one condition. What is it? I want to be there when he's arrested. Isabel paused. Why? Because this is personal, I said, my eyes burning with rage. He ruined my life. I want to see his face when they take him away. She nodded. Understandable. We laid out a detailed plan. First, I needed to get back into the company and make contact with people on the inside to gather more evidence. Then, at the right moment, we would report Carter and make sure he got what he deserved. That night, back at the motel, I pored over the materials Isabel had given me. I discovered Carter's criminal network was even more complex than I had imagined. He hadn't just defrauded Apex Capital. Multiple financial institutions were involved. The total amount exceeded $100 million. This wasn't a simple business dispute anymore. It was a major felony. If convicted, he was looking at a minimum of 10 years in prison. A smile spread across my face. Just you wait, Carter Vance. You took everything from me. I'm going to take away your freedom. It's the price you pay. The next day, I set my plan in motion. First, I contacted a few old, loyal employees from the company to get a sense of the internal situation. The first person I called was the finance manager, Diane Miller. She was a woman of strong principles who had been with the company for 5 years. I arranged to meet her at a coffee shop. Mr. Hayes, you're back, she said, shocked to see me. Yes, Diane. How are things at the company? Diane's expression grew heavy. Not good. How so? Mr. Vance. She paused. His management style is completely different from yours. In what way? He's a risk taker. He's invested in a lot of highly speculative projects. And the financial management is a mess. A mess how? Many large expenditures are made without board approval. He makes all the decisions himself. Also, there are a lot of red flags in the company's books. My interest peaked. What kind of red flags? For example, the repayment timelines and amounts for some investment projects don't add up. And for some expenses, we can't find the corresponding invoices or contracts. It was classic creative accounting. Diane, have you kept any records of this? She glanced around to make sure no one was listening before whispering, Yes. I made copies of some of the most suspicious accounts. Why? Because I was worried that if things went south, Mr. Vance would try to pin the blame on the finance department. So I kept a little insurance. A smart woman. Diane, can you give me those documents? I can, but she hesitated. Mr. Hayes, I still work there. If I get caught, I guarantee you won't be implicated. And if my plan succeeds, you'll all be free of Carter Vance very soon. She considered it for a moment, then nodded. Okay, but I have one condition. What is it? If you take back control of the company, I want to keep my job in the finance department. Of course. We agreed that I would pick up the documents from her apartment that evening. In the afternoon, I contacted several other employees, including the heads of HR, marketing, and technology. From them, I learned even more. After Carter took over, he had conducted a massive corporate restructuring. Any employee who questioned him was fired under some pretext. The people left were either his loyalists or old-timers who were too afraid to speak up. The entire company had become his personal fiefdom. Even worse, he had installed extensive surveillance systems throughout the office, supposedly to improve management, but in reality, to spy on the employees. Anyone who tried to leak company secrets would be discovered immediately. That explained why no one had blown the whistle on him. They were all under his constant watch, too afraid to make a move. But things were different now. I had outside support and a professional legal team. And most importantly, I had proof of his crimes. It was time to fight back. That evening, I went to Diane's apartment to get the files. She lived in an older building. The apartment was small but tidy. Mr. Hayes, these are the records I saved, she said, handing me a manila folder. It contained dozens of pages of financial statements and bank records. I went through them carefully and found numerous problems. For instance, a $50 million expenditure was recorded as an investment in a tech company, but the bank records showed the money ultimately ended up in a personal account. Another example was the impossibly high rates of return on some projects, clearly fabricated data. Diane, did all of this go through Carter? Yes. All major expenditures required his signature. He also ordered the finance department to alter the data to his specifications. If we didn't comply, we were fired. Textbook financial fraud. With this evidence, combined with Isabel's recording, Carter's conviction was all but guaranteed. Diane, thank you. Mr. Hayes, I just want the company to get back to normal, she sighed. Mr. Vance's management style has put everyone on edge. Don't worry, it will all be over soon. Back at the motel, I organized all the evidence and called Isabel. Ms. Croft, I have new evidence. What is it? Proof of financial fraud. Excellent, she said, excited. This strengthens our case significantly. When do we make our move? Tomorrow. I've already contacted the police. They've agreed to cooperate with us. It was finally happening. I paced around my room, my heart pounding with a mixture of nerves and excitement. Tomorrow was the day of Carter Vance's downfall, and the day of my new beginning. I was going to show him the true cost of betrayal. I was going to let Olivia see the kind of man she had chosen, and I was going to make my children understand who their real father was. The next morning, I got a call from Isabel. It's go time. The police are on their way. I quickly got ready and rushed to the office building. When I arrived, several police cars were already parked out front. Officers were entering the building. My heart hammered against my ribs, my hands trembling with excitement. This was it. The day had finally come. I followed the police inside and up the elevator. The lead officer turned to me. "You're Ethan Hayes?" "Yes. Just cooperate with our evidence collection. No unnecessary actions." "Understood." The elevator stopped on the 28th floor, where the company was located. As we pushed through the glass doors, the receptionist, who was on the phone, jumped in surprise. "Officers, can I help you? We're looking for Carter Vance." "Mr. Vance is in his office, but—" "No buts. Lead the way." I followed behind them, walking down the familiar hallway, past the familiar offices. This had once been my kingdom. Now, it was Carter's territory. But not for long. Soon, he would lose it all. We arrived at the CEO's office, and the officer knocked firmly. "Come in," Carter's voice called from inside. We pushed the door open. Carter was on the phone, sitting in a large executive chair. He froze when he saw the police. "Officers, is there a problem?" "Carter Vance, you're under arrest on suspicion of fraud. Please come with us." "Fraud?" He stood up. "This must be a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" The officer produced a warrant. "This is an arrest warrant." The color drained from Carter's face. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me, standing by the door. "Ethan Hayes, you called the police." "It wasn't just me," I said, stepping into the office. "It was all the people you scammed." "You—" He tried to say something, but was restrained by an officer. "Carter Vance, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The rest of the process was smooth. The police searched the office, confiscating his computer and stacks of documents. Carter was handcuffed and let out of the office. As he passed me, he stopped and said with venom, "Ethan, you think this means you've won?" "I've already won," I replied calmly. "The moment you lost your freedom, I won." "Don't celebrate too early," he seethed. "Olivia and the kids will never forgive you for this. That's not your concern anymore." He was escorted away by the police. The entire office descended into chaos. Employees whispered among themselves, trying to figure out what was happening. I stood in the office, looking at the room that was once mine. The chair was the same, the desk was the same, but the person sitting there had changed. Now it was about to change back. Isabel walked in. "Mr. Hayes, Carter's been arrested. What's the next step?" "Will the company's assets be frozen?" "Not for now. The police only froze his personal assets. The company can continue to operate. Then who will manage it? According to legal procedure, the original shareholder should take over." "The original shareholder? Me. So, the company is back in my hands?" "Theoretically, yes, but we'll need a final ruling from the court." I nodded. It was the first step. Next, I had to rebuild the company and recover the losses. More importantly, I had to make Olivia see the truth and realize what kind of man she had chosen. By the afternoon, the news of Carter's arrest had spread like wildfire. It was all over the news channels. Prominent entrepreneur arrested in billion-dollar fraud scheme. I could only imagine Olivia's face when she saw that headline. It must have been quite a show. Sure enough, it wasn't long before she called me. "Ethan, what happened to Carter?" Her voice was frantic. "You saw the news?" "I saw it, but I don't believe it. It has to be a mistake." "A mistake?" I scoffed. "Isabel Croft has a recording of him committing fraud. The finance department has proof of him falsifying records. What kind of mistake is that?" "Who's Isabel Croft?" "The general manager of Apex Capital. Carter scammed $50 million from them." The other end of the line went silent. "Olivia, do you finally see the kind of man you married?" She was at a loss for words. "A con man. A thief. A criminal who ruins people's lives. That's the man you chose." "No, Carter isn't like that," she insisted, still in denial. "He was so good to us." "Good to you?" I cut her off. "He was using my money. The money he stole, he used it to buy you a house, a car, luxury goods. Everything you enjoyed was built on the suffering of others." I could hear sobbing on the other end. "I didn't know. I really didn't know." "Well, now you do." "Ethan, what are we going to do now?" "What do you mean, we?" "The house, the cars, the kids' tuition. Everything bought with stolen money will be seized by the court. As for the children's tuition, that's a father's responsibility." But what? Didn't you say I couldn't do anything? Didn't you say Carter was better than me? Now that he's in prison, why don't you go find someone better?" I hung up. A part of me felt a pang of pity, but I had to be strong. Olivia had to pay the price for her choices. Only then would she truly understand the gravity of her mistake. The case developed quickly over the next few days, attracting massive media attention. A $100 million fraud case involving multiple financial institutions and numerous victims. The district attorney's office quickly approved the indictment. At the same time, the court began to liquidate his assets, including the house he had bought with my company's money. Olivia received an eviction notice from a court. She and the children had to move out as the property was classified as illegal gains and needed to be auctioned off to repay the debts. She called me again. Ethan, do we really have to move out? It's the court's decision. I have no say in it. Then where are we supposed to go? That's your problem, not mine. But the children can come live with me. What? I'm their father. I have custody rights. But what? You thought Carter was better than me? Let him raise them. Oh wait, he's in prison. She broke down, crying on the phone. Ethan, I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? Forgive you? I laughed coldly. Olivia, it's not about whether I forgive you. It's about you facing the consequences of your choices. You chose betrayal, greed, and short-sightedness. Now, it's time to pay the price. I'll come pick up the kids, but you're on your own. I was going to get my children. Not because I felt sorry for her, but because they were innocent. They shouldn't have to pay for their mother's mistakes. And for the first time in 3 years, I had a real home again. It was a small, rented apartment, but at least it was my own space. That weekend, I went to pick up the kids. They were still in the house, but would be leaving soon. Leo and Sophie looked at me with a mixture of emotions, a little happy, a little nervous. Daddy, is Uncle Carter really a bad guy? What do you think? The TV said he stole a lot of money. Yes, he did. He stole a lot of money, including Daddy's money. Leo frowned. But why would he do that? Because he's a greedy person, I said, kneeling down to look him in the eyes. Sometimes, people do bad things to get what they want. What about Mommy? Is she a bad person too? Sophie asked. That was a difficult question. Olivia wasn't a bad person, but she had made the wrong choices. Mommy isn't a bad person, but she was tricked. By Uncle Carter? Yes. The two children looked at each other, as if processing this. Daddy, who are we going to live with now? Leo asked. Who do you want to live with? I want to live with you, Sophie said. Mommy has been crying a lot lately, and we're scared to talk. And they're taking the house away, so we have nowhere to go. My heart softened. Even though the kids had been distant before, they now wanted to be with me. Perhaps this was the power of blood ties. Okay, pack your things. You're coming with me. Really? Leo's face lit up. Of course. You're my kids. They ran off happily to pack their bags. While I waited in the living room, Olivia came downstairs. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Ethan, she began, but I cut her off. I'm taking the kids. Take care of yourself. Could I maybe? Maybe what? Stay with you too? I almost laughed. Olivia, do you really think that's possible? We're divorced. You chose Carter. Now that he's in trouble, you want to come back to me? What do you take me for? A backup plan. She looked down, ashamed. I know I was wrong. I really do. It's too late, I said, my tone firm. Some mistakes can't be undone. Betrayal is betrayal. An apology doesn't make it disappear. What about the kids? They need their mother. They do need a mother, but not one who would betray their father. If you truly love them, stay away from them. At least until you've figured things out. She had no response. The kids came down with their bags, and we left the house together. In the car, Leo asked me, Daddy, will we be able to see Mommy again? Of course. Just not right now. Why? Because Mommy needs some time to think about some things. What things? Things about right and wrong. I brought the kids back to my small apartment. It was only a 2-bedroom, but it was cozy. This is our new home. The kids looked around curiously. Daddy, there's no game room, Sophie said, a little disappointed. A game room isn't important. What's important is that we're together. Besides, I'll play with you. Really? Leo's eyes lit up. Of course. And I did. For the first time in 3 years, I experienced the joy of being a father. Not by buying them expensive toys, but by being present in their lives. Teaching them to write, drawing with them, reading them stories. These simple things were more precious than any luxury. The children gradually warmed up to me. They realized that even though I wasn't as rich as Carter, I truly loved them. And that was a love money couldn't buy. 2 months later, Carter's trial began. I appeared in court as a victim and a witness. In the courtroom, Carter looked gaunt and tired. Prison life clearly didn't suit him. When the judge asked for his plea, he lowered his head and said, guilty. He was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 15 years in prison. As I walked out of the courthouse, I let out a long, deep breath. Justice had finally been served. Carter had paid the price, and I had gotten everything back. The company was under my control again. It would take time to rebuild, but the future was bright. The kids were living with me, and our bond grew stronger every day. As for Olivia, she was now living in a small apartment, making a living as a freelancer. Most of the money from the house auction had gone to compensating the victims. She was left with almost nothing. Sometimes I wondered if I had been too cruel to her. But then I remembered how mercilessly she had treated me. That's just how life is. Every choice has a consequence. She chose betrayal, and she had to bear the consequences of that betrayal. That evening, I was drinking tea on the balcony while the kids did their homework in the living room. This peaceful life was all I had ever wanted. The apartment wasn't large, and our life wasn't luxurious, but we were a real family. Leo ran over. "Daddy, I don't know how to do this math problem." "Come on, I'll teach you." I put down my cup and sat with him, working through the problem. In that moment, I felt like the happiest man in the world. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, Ethan, it's me." Olivia's voice. "What is it?" I just wanted to ask how the kids are doing." I glanced at my two children, diligently working on their homework. "They're fine." "Do they miss me?" "What do you think?" The other end was silent. "Ethan, can I see them?" "I'll think about it." "Thank you." I hung up. Maybe it was time to give her a chance. Not to forgive her, but to let the children know that even though their parents were divorced, they still had a mother's love. Perhaps that was the meaning of growth. Moving past betrayal and hatred, learning to forgive and start anew. I picked up my teacup again and looked up at the stars in the night sky. Life is like a play, and a play is like life. Full of ups and downs, joy and sorrow. But the most important thing is to learn to make the right choice at every turn. And now I had finally learned how.